Venezia 78, abbiamo qui con noi Tim Blake Nelson, protagonista di Old Henry, presentato fuori concorso alla mostra. Mr. Nelson, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a huge fan of yours. Great movie. Old Henry is a very classic style Western movie. You are also the executive producer on the movie. How did you get involved in the project?
I was at home cooking dinner for my family and I checked my email and I was offered a role of Henry in the movie Old Henry. And I thought to myself, well, that's funny. I have a son named Henry because one of our oldest boy is Henry. And so I was cooking food for him actually at the time, and his brothers and my wife. And then I noticed that it said Old Henry, and I was going to play Henry, and I said, oh, that's the first time I've been offered a role of an old guy. And so I read the script, and I was quite enchanted by it. And talked with the director, and we had a long conversation about the nature of the script, the character, what he wanted to do with the movie, and by the end, he liked a lot of the ideas I had and said, would you come on and help us make this beyond your involvement as an actor? Would you like to help us produce it? And I said, sure. And so I ended up helping cast it and giving notes on the editing and the script and the sound and score all throughout the process.
Great score, by the way. It's
Yeah.
Great classic score. So in the movie, we won't spoil anything, of course, but you play a bigger-than-life role in a very natural, humble way. What was your approach to the character?
I think over the course of the film, who he really is gets revealed very slowly, but not just to the audience, also to himself. So I think that as the inherent violence in him from his past surfaces, it surprises even him. Mm-hmm. And I guess that was my approach to the character. It was to let each scene and the writing in each scene and the experience of each scene cause his truth to come to the surface. And I think as an actor, at least I do my best work when I'm surprising even myself. Yeah. And so to do that, you have to find a kind of innocence so that the work doesn't show and so that you're not overthinking or getting ahead of thinking of yourself, mm-hmm. but it comes from within you instead of just from your brain.
And the violence that surprises the character is the violence that the father, Henry, wants to protect his son from in the movie. It's a very strong and intense relationship that this character has with his son. It's almost like he carries a legacy that he wants to forget, also to save his child and the future of the country, because Western, generally talking, is about the old American way of life.
Yes, I think you've really put it beautifully.
Thank you.
And each Western, I also think, is about Westerns.
Yeah.
Like any genre movie that you can really call a genre movie, so whether it's a horror film or a romantic comedy or a Western, is also about the genre.
Yes.
And a common theme in Westerns, which I think is a very valid one, is not only about the Western way of life and the Western code, which celebrates individualism and the extrajudicial, so taking the law into your own hands, not counting on the law, and in this movie the law is counterfeit, actually.
Yes.
The law isn't to be trusted. All of those are Western tropes, but at the end of this movie, you have my character saying, the world doesn't want me anymore. I don't belong in this world anymore. Yeah. And that's very much about the Western. It's also saying the morality of the Western has no place in the modern world. And then there's also the inherent message in that, isn't that a pity? Wouldn't it be great if we could go back to this sort of heroic figure? And that's what the Western is all about.
Absolutely. And Western is a genre that can be presented in many different ways. I mean, last time you were here in Venice, it was last time with Buster Scruggs, right?
Yeah.
You were here with a very different kind of cowboy. So the possibilities are infinite.
Well, what was extraordinary about Buster Scruggs was the fact that you had 6 different distinctive genres within a single anthology. Old Henry is a very different animal.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
Because the Coen's film Buster Scruggs is always saying to you, we're exploring genre here, and we're not going to pretend that we aren't. And there's also, like in most of their movies, a meta aspect to it. So it's a movie about movie making, and you're always being reminded you're watching a movie.
Yes.
Old Henry is a different animal. It's asking you to get lost in the film.
Yeah.
There's no self-reflection
No
or
meta
into it.
cinematographic stuff. Yeah, I totally agree. And Western is a very epic genre, and still, and I say it in the best possible way, this film feels very intimate, small. I mean, one location pretty much, just a few characters. How was the shooting on the movie and working with the other actors, especially Stephen Dorff, which is great as always.
I think Stephen,
everybody's good, but Stephen is a great villain.
Yes, I think Stephen Dorff delivers a fantastic performance, and I love It's a very different villain because he's quite articulate, and I think that's very interesting. And Potsy and I worked a lot in terms of the script on elevating that character into, giving him that extra twist of a villain with a great vocabulary.
Yeah.
And he's fantastic. I mean, Stephen, he just you grow to hate his character in the film, which is absolutely right, and he delivered beautifully in that regard. I call this a micro western.
Yeah. Totally agree.
And that's a wonderful oxymoron, because with westerns you think of scope and micro is tiny.
Sure.
But it's actually what this film is. It's a very tiny story with great scope. And I loved shooting on mostly a single location. The movie spreads out into an entire county, so you're not always in one place. But we were always shooting in one place because Potsy, the writer-director, found a great location where we could just stay in one place centrally and do all our shooting there.
Great.
And that gave great focus to the work.
Great. We have from our readers outside of Old Henry a question about the next few years of your career. We just witnessed the return of an old character in the Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. You have some unfinished business with that story and that character. I know you won't tell us anything if you have something to tell, but would you like to reprise that role that you played many years ago at this point?
Well, I would love to play the leader, and I've heard some rumblings about that through channels at Marvel, but I'm not sure of any specifics, but there have been some hints.
But I like your smile about it.
Yeah.
That's encouraging. I hope to see you soon in other great movies. Old Henry, presentato al Festival di Venezia. Thank you, Mr. Tim Blake Nelson.
My pleasure.